All right, good morning. Welcome to the Pat Donovan Show. Pat Donovan Show. Hey!
Whoa.
I'm trying to wake myself and everybody who may be listening to the program up. I don't know if it's working for you guys. It's not working for me. It was a good time last night. A little late, but had a great time last night. We went over to the Pepin Hospitality Center. What a place, huh?
That was beautiful.
What an unbelievable venue. And we were over there with the Tampa Bay Rain to celebrate their season that's upcoming starting this October and some of the things they're going to be involved with in the community. Very cool stuff. And glad to be a part of it. Got to introduce Lincoln Kennedy last night at the event. Just a huge Lincoln Kennedy fan. And, I even put the picture up last night. So got to introduce one of my favorite athletes of all time. And he really is. Really is. And if you don't know why, Lincoln Kennedy played here in Tampa, but as you may know, not with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, however, with the Tampa Bay Storm. And that year I did cover the Storm for the radio station I was with at the time. And I was just blown away. Just blown away after the game. First of all, when the game started, I saw this big tackle, way bigger than most of the guys you find in Arena League. Looking at him, I see Kennedy. Never for a second would I have thought it was Lincoln Kennedy. When I looked at the roster, I said, what is Lincoln Kennedy doing playing in the Arena Football League? And I went down after the game and I talked to him. And I said it to him last night, he was just beat. You could just see it. Here's a guy that was killing himself to play football for the Tampa Bay Storm. And nothing against Arena League football. Had a great time when I've covered the game and worked in the NFL booth, NFL Network booth with a couple of the guys last year during one of those games. Had a great time. It's a good product. Certainly more fun, in my opinion, when you're at the stadium or the arena, when you're at the Tampa Bay Times Forum, than trying to watch it at home. I really tried to get into Arena League football. Never could until I saw it live. A lot more fun live.
Yeah.
But again, I'm thinking, what is Lincoln Kennedy? A guy who played in the NFL for a long time. What is this guy doing playing in the AFL? So I couldn't wait to ask him after the game and, just talking to him. And he was talking about the passion these kids had that play there. And they're obviously not playing for the money because there aren't millionaires playing football in the Arena Football League. And I was just blown away by him talking about how passionate they were. He didn't even talk about himself. But to me, I saw this guy, and, like I said last night when I introduced him, his heart would not allow him to stop playing football when his body would not allow him to play NFL football anymore because he just couldn't cut it in the NFL anymore. He was just too banged up to really compete with that level of talent. But he still wanted to compete, and he still wanted to play football, and he did it in the Arena Football League. And I was just impressed by that. Anytime a guy has that kind of passion for his sport, that he'll play it at any level just to play it.
Very easy to root for guys like that. I mean, when they got the passion, and that's the thing. You see a lot of guys in the NFL that don't have that kind of passion, that are just playing, like they're taking it for granted almost. And you could tell just by meeting with him.
I think that's overstated. I disagree with that wholeheartly.
Well, I'm not saying everybody, but I'm sure that there's definitely guys out there that take it for granted.
I really don't.
I mean, look at people look at all the players that had a lot of success in the NFL and now are completely bankrupt. Like somebody like a Terrell Owens or somebody like that. Like I feel like he kind of took it for granted. I mean, he made all this money.
It's hard to know what to do when you have that kind of money.
It is.
I'm not saying you should go broke, but I'm not that surprised when it happens to guys because it's not easy to know when you get a lot of hanger-oners, hanger-ons, and it's not easy to know. But the reason why I disagree, and we've had this conversation with Brent Lartz, and there's just this overwhelming idea that professional athletes don't care. And for me, I just don't buy it.
I don't agree with that statement, but I do think that there's some players out there in all sports that take their position and what they've been granted. Like playing professional sports is a privilege. It's not a right. And
Certainly.
And a lot of players treat it like a right. Like they don't interact with the fans very well. They don't they're not very good with the media. They don't seem like they take it more like a job than it's a game. It's a game that kids play, and they should be happy that they're getting paid for it. And some people kind of take it for granted, and some people see it as more of a business. And I think those are the kind of guys that are sometimes kind of hard to root for. But with somebody like Lincoln Kennedy, you could tell that he has a passion, and obviously he wants to be there if he's going to go and play in the Arena League just to continue to play the game that he loves. Very easy to root for somebody like that, and you could tell that he never took anything for granted.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think there's guys, especially after they get there, that maybe take it for granted to an extent. But I get wary when I start hearing that line of talk about guys taking things for granted or guys not caring because, again, there is this overwhelming thought with a lot of the public that guys don't care or guys are just playing for the money. And I just don't buy it.
Yeah.
I think there are a handful of athletes that are just so damn talented that they can get there without caring.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's many. I don't think there's many at all. I think to be the best at what you do, regardless of what it is, and if you're in the NFL, if you're, like we talked about yesterday, if you are the worst player in the NFL, you care about what you do.
Yeah.
You might be the worst player in the NFL, but you're a hell of an athlete. And at the end of the day, I think there are some guys that maybe got there without caring as much. But I think to get to that level, what it takes to be an NFL player takes so much work, takes so much heart and dedication. And I've seen it. I've seen guys with immense talent that just didn't put it to work. They don't get to the NFL. The guys who get to the NFL had to put in so much work to get there. It's hard for me not to believe that they're passionate about it. It's hard to work that hard at something you're not passionate about.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I absolutely agree that anybody that gets to the NFL, they have to work their tail off just to get there. But I feel like not a lot, but I feel like there's definitely people out there that once they have instant success when they first get there, after they've already seen the top of the mountain and they've achieved so much, then it's not that they don't care, but it's that they're not appreciative or aware of the situation they're in and how many people would just kill to be in their position, and they act as if it's something that they're entitled to as opposed to something that they've earned or something that they should be grateful to have. So I completely agree that people work to get to the NFL, but they're like somebody like Lincoln Kennedy had a lot of success in the NFL too. I mean, borderline Hall of Famer. And
I think he should be there.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. People like that have that much success, you see it a little bit later in their career. Not that they don't care, but that it's that they feel entitled. I mean, and it's not a lot of guys. It certainly isn't a lot of guys. But I'm sure that you could find at least 5 guys in every sport that don't appreciate the position that they're in, or they just don't act like it.
I would agree with that, and I think you could do that in any walk of life. But I just think that at the end of the day, most of the guys care a lot more than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
Well, I give them a lot of credit because I believe in pro athletes as a whole for the most part. I know there's a bunch of schmucks, but I don't care if you're talking about police officers, congressmen, especially congressmen, doctors, lawyers, teachers. It doesn't matter what you do. There's a bunch of schmucks in every profession. There's a bunch of schmucks in every walk of life. And that's why I always try to mention that, in my opinion, if you did the percentages of what percentage of pro athletes go out and do good in their community as opposed to not versus what percentage of other professions do that. Now, to an extent, when you're a professional athlete, you got a little more extra time on your hands. You've got the money to do things in the community. You've got the recognition and the notoriety to do things in the community. Whereas if Pat Donovan wants to walk out tomorrow and do something in the community, who the hell's Pat Donovan?
Yeah.
Although if Evan Longoria today could say, I'm having an event tomorrow, and everyone would be there.
Certainly.
I could promote the thing for 2 months, and we wouldn't get nearly the kind of attendance. So they obviously have a little more ability to do those things, but that doesn't mean they have to. Doesn't mean they're going to. And I think when you look at the percentage of guys who do, Ian Beckles was talking about it the other day on Ron and Ian, and I heard him say there are a number of guys that go out to hospitals, that go out to do things that you never know about because they're not marquee athletes, so the media is not following them to go do a story on it.
Yeah, or either that or they're just humble and they don't want it to be about the attention. They want to do it because they genuinely want to help. Yeah. And they're not going to take out a press release like, I'm going and helping out these guys. I'm doing it. And they just do it. So, and I think that the percentages, at least for professional athletes, would have to be in the 90 to single digits for people that the ones that actually go out and do stuff and are active in the community, as opposed to like the 6% that actually don't. And those are the ones that I'm talking about that are very difficult to root for. And you could see it kind of just how they talk and just with their demeanor. You could tell who those guys are. But that's the thing. I would rather focus on people like Lincoln Kennedy that do go out there, because those are the stories that are more positive, and those are the ones that should be focused on, as opposed to players that don't. Like the negative stories, why? Why focus on that?
It's awful.
Let's focus on the examples to be followed, not the ones to be not.
Yeah, you talk about the youth all the time, and people talk about what's wrong with youth and what's wrong with this, what's wrong with the examples they're getting. Well, part of it's our fault because we're putting the wrong examples in front of them.
Certainly.
When we could be putting the right examples in front. It's one of the things I always loved about Shaq. You always heard stories about Shaq where he did things and he basically begged the people not to say anything. I remember hearing a story about 10 years ago where Shaq was walking by some homeless shelter, just walking by. I don't know what he was doing. And he happened to just look inside and see some kids just kind of hanging out, not anything to do. And he walked in. He just walked in and said, "Where's the TV? Where's the TV?" And they said, "Oh, we don't have a TV in here." So he walked around the corner, found the closest electronics store, and went and bought the biggest, best TV he could find, brought it back over there, and literally from the story that I heard, and we don't know how accurate it is, but from the story I heard, said, "Please don't tell anyone. I don't want anyone to know. I'm not doing this so that people can say, look what Shaq did.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because I hate to see kids in a homeless shelter already in a rough situation, not even have a television to watch." So just impressive stuff. And you hear about stuff like that all the time from guys that just go out and do things. You hear about, again, the big athlete when they do it. You don't hear that much about the little guy. Lincoln Kennedy is a great example. Now that he's done playing, you hear him on Fox Sports Radio, but the media is not following him around to watch what he's doing. Goes out of his way to be here last night to support the Tampa Bay Rain. It's just really impressive stuff. And you hear about it all the time. One guy that comes to mind, and I wish I could remember his name. I should remember his name. I want to celebrate the guy so much. When Ahman Green left the Green Bay Packers and went to the Houston Texans, he wanted number 30. I can't remember who wore number 30, mainly because he was a back part of the roster guy. He wasn't a starting back or cornerback. 30, he was a tailback, or he was a running back, or he was a defensive back. He wasn't one of the better ones on the team. He certainly, I would bet, is not a millionaire. Certainly not a famous football player. When Ahman Green wanted number 30, he said, "This is what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to put the down payment on a home for a family that can't afford one. Here's a guy that's not rich and famous. Here's a guy that could probably use that money himself.
Yeah.
Didn't ask for it himself. Had Ahman Green put a down payment on a home for a young woman who couldn't afford it herself." Very impressive.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, and those are the stories. I never heard about it because for some reason the media decides to cover the ones that are more negative. I never heard about that. And those are the stories that should be getting out, and those are the ones that people should be aware of.
Yeah, and had that guy been arrested for drugs or DUI or hit his wife or whatever, we'd know everything about the guy.
Yeah.
We'd know his whole damn history. But because he did something good, we never heard about it.
Yeah.
And those are just the stories that are everywhere around sports. It's part of the reason I love sports, because I really do believe that for the most part, when you're looking at professional athletes, you're looking at the best of the best athletes and often the best of the best people as well.
Yeah, good role models. Exactly.
That's right. I tell you, I felt slightly like a role model last night. It's pretty cool with the young man Sam Harris from Tampa Catholic coming up. Anytime a kid, I get a lot of parents who tell us, we love what you guys do or love your play, but whatever it is, whenever it's one of the kids, I don't know why, I like it that much more. I don't know. Maybe because kids are cooler than I am, and I'm like, yes!
Yeah.
I'm almost cool. The kids like me. All right, we got just a few minutes. All right, we're going to take a break right now. We're going to come back. We're going to talk some Lightning hockey. We got Lightning Conference hockey next week. The finals are going to be over at the Tampa Bay Times Forum. Don't remember the exact date. The beautiful thing is it's on our schedule. You cannot miss it. But we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk Lightning hockey. We're going to talk about how they've made some moves, and now they've made a move in the standings. And you're going to wonder, if they knew they'd be this close right now, would they have done that? Although the Downey move came during this run, so I think they probably would have. I think a lot of people believe what I heard earlier today. I believe from Ron and Ian on my way in, which usually I don't get to hear those guys on my way in because I'm here earlier, but today the traffic, good Lord. But they said even if they get into the playoffs, this team's not doing anything, and I think the ownership knows that.
Yeah.
So maybe they would have made these moves anyways. We'll talk about that and the moves they made when we come back. It's the Pat Donovan Show with Chris Kasak right here on TLSTV.com.
Escapes the tackler, gets pushed out of bounds, but
deep, and it's intercepted in the end zone by Robert Davis, and Nelson Aguilar will walk in again with another Berkeley Prep touchdown.
To open, and another ace to the same position.
escapes the tackler, gets pushed out of bounds, but
deep, and it's intercepted in the end zone by Robert Davis, and Nelson Aguilar will walk in again with another Berkeley Prep touchdown.
To open, and another ace to the same position.
escapes the tackler, gets pushed out of bounds, but
Deep, and it's intercepted in the end zone by Robert Davis, and Nelson Aguilar will walk in again with another Berkeley Prep touchdown.
To open. And another ace to the same position.
Classic.
Absolutely.
All right, welcome back. It's the Pat Donovan Show. When we step up in the place, Chris Kasak and I don't even remember what he said. When I step up in the place, I think we come correct. That's what we're doing. Coming correct whenever we step into places. Stepped into the Pepin Hospitality Center last night. What a nice place.
We stepped in correctly.
Oh, very correct. We were there early. Got to see that amazing slab of meat before.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I gotta give those guys some love. If you're ever looking for a place to have an event, not only, I mean, the event was for the Tampa Bay Rain. They went all out. Somehow they even made it rain last night. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Just the facility when you walk up, if you've never seen it, I'm going to put the pictures today on Facebook.com/Tampa Live Sports. I've already got them on my page, but we're not friends. You can be friends with us, though, Facebook.com/Tampa Live Sports. But
we'll have the video up, too.
yeah, video, hopefully very soon. We'll be ready for you to see as well. But, yeah, outside, it was very cool. You walk up, there's a statue of a couple of the Clydesdales. And then behind the statue and then to either side, there's three big flames that burn. Very cool stuff. You go inside. The food was amazing. This is an amazing giant slab of beef.
It was like a boulder.
I wanted to get my Flintstone car and have him throw it on the side and flip over and then, like, kind of cuddle with that big piece of meat for a while. Well, see, this is the kind of thing where back in radio, they would have cut that right out and I would have had that would have been a drop forever. Don't let Dave Druda anywhere near this audio. But I know some people don't know who Dave Druda is, but if you don't, you're missing out. Great guy, great radio producer. Used to be here in Tampa Bay. Now he's in Houston, running the show over there for Tim Brando, just doing a great job. But mashed potatoes in a martini glass. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah.
And that's not it. It was a mashed potato station. They had red potato, regular old Yukon potato, and then they also had sweet potato. And then they had different things you could add to it. And I'm sitting there going, I know the brown sugar is for the sweet potato. But I didn't do it. I thought about it. I didn't do it. They also had a mac and cheese station. You did the mac and cheese
Yes, I
station,
did the
right?
mac and cheese.
I loaded it. I get everything. But they've got mac and cheese where basically like an omelet station. You could pick the different things for them to mix in with it. Flatbreads, didn't get to any of the flatbreads.
They were
Great
good.
looking desserts, didn't get to any of those as well. A little busy yapping my gums. But a great event. And if you're looking for a place to have an event, just a very cool place. Another very cool place, Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Times Forum. We'll be out there doing championship Lightning Conference hockey next week. But right now they're still playing Lightning hockey over there, and maybe even longer than we thought, as now they find themselves 5 games out of first place.
5 points, which is actually
much better than 5
like
games.
2.5 games.
5 points out of first place. You're right, 2.5 games is basically what it would work out to. And then also 5 games out of that last playoff spot. So really they could have either one. It's interesting where you could all of a sudden be either the 3 seed or the 8 seed.
Yeah.
And that was, the Pittsburgh Steelers in football this year. They could have ended up with that 2 seed and a first-round bye. Instead, they were the 5.
Yeah.
So it happens. It's a strange thing how that happens, though. And I don't know. I don't know how I like the playoff seeding. Well, that's a discussion for another day. I think it was a little unfair that, for instance, the New York Giants hosted the Atlanta Falcons, despite the fact that the Atlanta Falcons were a better regular season team.
Yeah.
And that's just because the Giants won their division. I don't know how I feel about that. I think winning your division should matter. Maybe it should get you in the playoffs, a la 7-9 Seattle.
Yeah.
I don't know if it should give you a home game.
I don't know if it should either. I think it should go to best record once you get out of the first round. I think it would be fair enough if you win your division and you get the home field for the first game against a team that didn't win their division. But then after that, if you advance, I think it should just be best record. But that's just me. I don't think they'll ever change it. Nobody's listening to me. So
no, and I don't know. A lot of people want them to change the playoffs altogether. They want them to say, just make it the 6 best teams. I don't want to see the Seattle Seahawks. And I know we're talking hockey right now, but it's the same equation. But the equation for the Lightning has changed quite a bit. Pavel Kabina, Dominic Moore, and now Downey all out the door. And a wealth of draft picks in what, Steve Yzerman, at least, I heard him the other day say what he thinks is going to be a very deep draft.
Yeah.
I don't know how the draft will be for goaltender. I think that's got to be obviously a target. And maybe, like you've talked about, a trade may be a better target for a goaltender, because if you're talking about drafting one, you're not talking about playing him right away in the NHL.
Certainly.
That's one of the difference. The NHL, like the Major League Baseball,
exactly.
a draft isn't as important as it is to the NBA. And even in the NBA, it's not what it used to be. And especially now the NFL. The NFL is the league where a guy can get drafted anywhere and make an impact the next season. We saw that. We were looking at the statistics yesterday,
yes,
where Kyle Arrington of the Patriots led the league, undrafted rookie free agent, led the league in interceptions. So you can make more of an impact as a young guy right away in the NFL than you do in the NBA, and certainly more than you can in the NHL or Major League Baseball. So while it's good to have a bunch of draft picks, does it help you right away? And the answer is no. The good thing is, if you believe in Steve Yzerman, as I don't see any reason why we shouldn't, at least we can still go out and sign guys next year. And that's kind of what he said is, look, yeah, we've got all these draft picks. Now we can just replace those guys.
Yeah, and not only, it was a great comparison saying how it's a lot like the MLB draft. Unless you're in the first 5 picks, you're probably not going to make the starting roster, or at least the active roster.
I mean,
starting
even the
the
top 5
season.
picks really don't, though, right?
No, I mean
Stamkos didn't play right away. Am I correct?
Yeah, he did. He did, and so did the number 2 pick, Drew Doughty, who went to the Kings. He also started right away.
He played no minor league hockey.
No minor league hockey.
All right.
When that's only with about the first 3 or first 1 to 5 picks.
The studs.
Yes, you'll see them immediately. But yeah, I mean,
maybe he just didn't get as much ice time, or
it was because it was.
Did he have very limited ice time this year? I don't remember seeing him a lot.
It was because of Barry Melrose. We drafted him the year that the mullet was the coach, and that was also the year that I canceled my season tickets. And
That's
I
like
sent
a go-to answer. It's because of Barry Melrose.
Yeah, I sent a letter to the Lightning about that too, saying I was going to cancel my season tickets specifically because Barry Melrose was brought in.
Wow.
I sent a very long letter. I don't know if anybody read it. I'm sure somebody read it, but explaining.
Some intern.
Yeah, explaining that I had season tickets for about 5 years and I canceled them because of Barry Melrose coming in. And then he only lasted 13 games and was fired. But he was saying that Stamkos wasn't ready for the NHL, wasn't giving him a lot of playing time. After Melrose got fired, the second half of the season, Stamkos absolutely went off. And I think he had 17 goals in the last 20 games of the season.
And maybe that's why I thought he got brought up late, because we didn't see enough of him early on. He wasn't making that kind of an impact.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You don't see players in hockey make an impact. In the draft, it's more so for a few years down the line.
Yeah.
But as you talked about them collecting draft picks, I mean, they got 2 for Kabina, a 4th round, and 1 that could end up being a 2nd round either next draft.
It will be, like you said to me earlier.
It will be a 2nd round pick, whether it's this year or next year. That's up to Florida, because they got the Flyers acquired that for Chris Versteege.
And you brought up a good point about why it will most likely be a second pick in this year's draft.
Yeah, it'll probably end up since Florida has the option and they're having a very good season that I don't think anybody expected them to have. That draft pick is going to end up being a little bit later. They're going to end up being in the back half of the draft, and I think they're going to want to give the Lightning that pick as opposed to maybe next year if they have a huge letdown and they're picking near the top of the draft. That second-round pick can be a lot more valuable. So I think you're going to see the Lightning get that second-round pick for this year. They got a second round from the Sharks for Dominic Moore and a first-round pick for Steve Downey, which I think is huge, getting a first round for Downey. Because, we were at the game a couple weeks ago, and I was not a fan of Downey. I haven't been for a while. But, and that's the other thing. There's no guarantee that they're going to keep all these draft picks. They might go into the offseason and they're going to have their own first-round draft pick. They're going to have the one that they got from Colorado, and you might see them ship a couple draft picks and maybe a minor leaguer to try to get a goalie. Like these draft picks aren't necessarily going to turn out into players that they draft. These could just be what's the word I'm looking for? These could just end up being, I don't know.
Collateral?
Yeah, sure. They could just end up being something that ends up turning into like trade bait.
Yeah.
They just end up being something else just to acquire another player, and they might never use the draft pick.
Yeah, because if you don't follow the NHL draft very closely, and I don't, not certainly like I do the NFL draft, but there isn't a Steven Stamkos in every draft.
No, there's not.
There isn't even a guy half as good as Steven Stamkos in every draft. So you don't necessarily know. But I don't know. Again, I don't follow the NHL draft as closely. But I wonder if there's that guy towards the top of the draft. If there is that guy, if there is a guy that you look at and go, this is a right-away guy, this is a guy we can pair with Stamkos, and they can both be superstars, is there a chance to move up for that guy?
Well, that's the thing. How much are they going to have to move up if they continue to stay at the bottom of the East and they don't end up making the moves that we see them making? Because they've caught fire at the right time. They make 3 trades, they get 3 wins in a row.
Bizarre.
Yeah, it is. But
maybe
I think
if they trade Stamkos, they'll win them all.
I don't think you want to see them do that.
No, God, you don't trade the best player.
Obviously not. But that's the thing. If they're already if they don't make the moves and they're still in the bottom of the East, they'll have a top 5 draft pick. How much more do you really want to move up?
Well, that's true.
And a couple of years ago, they drafted a guy, Carter Ashton, who was close to making the team this year. And I think he could end up being somebody that could be paired with Stamkos as another very potent goal scorer in this league. So I don't know if you need to make a huge reach. And that's the other thing. If they end up staying in the cellar of the East and they want to use their draft pick, not the one that they acquired for Downey, but if they want to use theirs that's higher up in the draft as something to use to try to bring a goaltender in here, to bring a defenseman in here, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. And Yzerman has even made it known that acquiring these draft picks, it was their plan to acquire a bunch of draft picks, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to use those to draft players.
Well, but when was it their plan? Obviously, earlier this season, when you're coming off a run where you just about got to the Stanley Cup Finals, I can't imagine that was the plan.
No,
coming into the year.
No, this is what Yzerman said after the most recent deal for Downey. I heard it on my way home after we did the Berkeley Prep softball game. He was talking between periods to Michigan or whoever it was, and he was even saying that, yes, we've acquired a lot of draft picks. It was our plan to rebuild through the draft. When he became GM, he put in place a 5-year plan, and it was acquiring a bunch of draft picks.
I thought it was supposed to be a 7-year plan.
It was a 5-year.
What movie was that?
7-year plan. What was that? Big Daddy?
Was that what it was?
Yeah, is it talking to the old guy? I got a 7-year plan. What is it? Don't die? Yeah.
Right, his girl leaves him for a dude that's like 80 or something. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? Don't die. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, and that's the thing is that even like you even said, if we make it, like Ron and Ian were saying this morning, even if we do make it into the playoffs, how much of a splash are we going to make? Do we have the goaltending and defense to really make a run? And I think the obvious answer to that is no, we do not.
Yeah.
But I still think, you're not going to see them sit down. They want to get to the playoffs because it's going to be valuable experience for all these guys that have come up to replace the guys we've traded. Angelidis, JT Wyman, a couple of these younger guys that haven't been getting a lot of playing time that now are going to start seeing some more, be valuable experience if they could play around in the playoffs. Even if we get bounced and get swept, it's still valuable experience for them, and it's going to help us going forward. But still, I think we're in a great position to get into the playoffs now, and it all starts with tonight. Tonight, not just our game, but what the Panthers do as well. If the Panthers lose and we win, we find ourselves just 3 points out.
Yep.
And at that point, 3 points out with however many games we got at least 15, 20 games left.
That's a 2-game winning streak and a 2-game losing streak for them, and that's it.
Exactly. That's one good week away and one bad week away for the people ahead of you, and you're possibly the 3 seed. And even if we are the 3 seed and we get a home game, we might even win a series. I think it would be good if we could get that 3 seed and we have the home ice advantage. I think we have a very good chance of even advancing in a round, depending on who we draw in the first round. But I think it will just be great experience for the younger guys that have now come up, and a good way to gauge some of these guys and see what they have and see if they have a place on our team for the future, or if there's somebody we're going to try to trade away to bring somebody else in. So even showcasing talent for bringing in trades. So the longer our season goes, the better, just in terms of showcasing talent and getting guys experience and playing meaningful games at the end of a season.
I agree with the showcasing talent part, but what I really like about what you said is the experience for these younger guys, because you look back to last year. You look back to when the playoffs started a year ago, and Steve Stamkos was nowhere near the player he was during the regular season, nowhere near the player he was towards the end of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And you hear it every single year from guys in the NHL. Playoff hockey is not the same as regular season hockey. Playoff hockey is a whole nother level. And it's like that in every sport, of course, but I think hockey more so than any sport.
100%.
And to get those guys that experience, to get them that period of, holy crap, what am I in?
Yeah.
You know, and you saw it from Stamkos last year. You saw where he was kind of like taken back. He didn't realize the speed, the physicality, the difference of playoff hockey, and it took him some time to get used to that, and that's why the beginning of the playoffs for him were and the end of the playoffs, he was looking great.
Yeah.
And you know what? Not that every guy's going to have that kind of jump through one playoff push, but Steve Stamkos is one of the best. But to get any of those guys that kind of experience, to get any of those guys that ready for that playoff push when they get there the next time, I think it's absolutely invaluable, and I think it's a big, big deal. And it's part of the reason why, if you're a Lightning fan, you absolutely should hope they make the playoffs. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. It's the Pat Donovan Show. Chris Kasak right here with Chris Kasak right here on your home for live streaming sports in Tampa Bay.
Escapes the tackler, gets pushed out of bounds, but
Deep, and it's intercepted in the end zone by Robert Davis, and Nelson Aguilar will walk in again with another Berkeley Prep touchdown.
To open. And another ace to the same position.
escapes the tackler, gets pushed out of bounds, but
Deep, and it's intercepted in the end zone by Robert Davis, and Nelson Aguilar will walk in again with another Berkeley Prep touchdown.
To open. And another ace to the same position.
Unless you're from the little town of Wareham, Massachusetts, or I suppose maybe around Boston. These guys have done pretty well for themselves, but it's a band called Stoic. And if you're into some good, like, lead singer is about 5 feet tall and just has this come on, I mean,
10-foot voice.
Oh, man. Yeah, I like that. Just, you listen to his voice, sounds like he'll rip your head off. Not that he won't. You don't want to mess with Nathan. But they do some good stuff. I had a couple of bands from my old hometown that Stoic, probably more successful, but both them and the Woodland Creatures. Good listen. So look them up if you're into music because they're pretty good. Maybe I'm biased, though. They're friends of mine, so I could be friends of the show.
Friends of the show.
Friends of the show. But actually, unlike Pantera and some of the other friends of the show, actually do know the lead singer of Stoic. We kid about the rest of them. But we will talk real quick about Steve Stamkos and the Lightning. And then I want to talk about douchey Hollywood for a minute because this is why I hate Hollywood and most actors. Here is why it is in a you know what? Let's get to your point about Stamkos first.
All right.
It's a good one. And something I never even crossed my mind or I didn't consider at all. I've heard and I've seen when I've watched that he is playing tougher. He is playing better defense. Never even considered your point, though.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about how Steven Stamkos grew throughout the playoffs last year, and at the beginning he kind of was getting his footing, kind of just getting his feet wet and trying to understand it, and then near the end he was a force playing like what we saw in the regular season. But I think the physicality and just the different style of play in playoff hockey has completely transformed Steven Stamkos into a two-way player, when before he was simply just a goal scorer. And everybody nationally, people in the Tampa media, everybody notices how well he is playing defense now and how much more physical he's playing this year. And I think a lot of that is because of the experience he gained in the playoffs. And I even mentioned before about how when you're in the playoffs in hockey, everybody has got to get physical. Even like the smallest guy on the ice, like somebody like St. Louis, everybody's got to play.
I get physical watching it at home.
Yeah. Oh, so do I.
My wife leaves the room. She knows what's going on. I'm kidding, everybody.
But no, I mean, just talk about how valuable the experience is. Like, just look at somebody like Stamkos, who it didn't really seem like he had a whole lot of room to grow. He was already a Hart Trophy winner for leading the league in, Rocket Richard Trophy winner for leading the league in goals.
How many trophies does the NHL have? Can you tell me this?
About 15. They got a ton of them. But when
did you notice the NFL just took the NHL's lead and finally had their first award show this year?
Yeah, I did notice that. I mean, I love
Didn't watch any of it.
I love the award shows. And that was like last year when a couple ladies actually called Martin St. Louis.
It's funny we bring up award shows because we're going to talk about the Oscars, but
good lead-in.
The only
Go
award
ahead.
show I ever watched back growing up was the Slammies.
What is the Slammies?
WWE. Another thing I want to talk about today, we'll see if we can get them both in, WWE and my newfound fandom of CM Punk. And also want to talk about how douchey Hollywood is. It really, I mean, and again, here's the easy sum. As much as people talk about athletes and how their heads are big, and when's the last time you heard an athlete talk about how important what he is doing is?
The last time, what they do on the field?
Yeah.
Never.
Hollywood is full of such self-important pricks. I hate it.
George Clooney?
I'm not going to name anybody I name.
I love him as an actor too, but George Clooney is very smug when it comes to... He's an actor.
I don't know much about George Clooney. The only ones I really know for sure is that schmuck Johnny Depp, who says he'd rather live in France. How about this? Go live there. Don't ever come back.
Yeah.
Okay? Go live in France and don't ever come back, you a-hole.
Yeah.
But as a whole, I don't remember how many times I've seen during and I don't watch any of them. I don't watch the Oscars. I don't watch the Emmys. I don't watch any of that crap. But you always end up seeing highlights. For some reason, the news thinks it's newsworthy to play this or that. I don't. You'll even see it on SportsCenter from time to time. They want to show you this stuff. I couldn't care less. And for some reason, every time I hear some actor or some actress talking about a role that they played or a role that someone else played and how important it was. How important it was. Give me a freaking break. Nobody has ever had an important role in a movie.
Mm-mm.
Maybe Schindler's List.
Yeah.
Maybe American History X. Okay? You find me something that, I've always said, I have a kid and he drops the N-bomb one time. He says the N-word one time in front of me, and I'm going to make him watch American History X.
Yeah.
You sit a racist down in front of that movie, and they'll feel like an a-hole when it's over.
Absolutely.
And if they don't, shoot them.
Yeah.
Because there's something wrong with that person.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm not even racist, but I watch that movie, and I'm like, man, it just gets to you.
Absolutely.
So maybe those are important roles. But for the most part, I don't care if you're playing Anne Frank or if you're playing somebody that went through a plight. And most of these roles are not nearly as important
as the actual people.
Yeah, of course. But certainly the roles are not as important as these jerks want to try to make them out to be. And here's why I'm angry at Hollywood today. One of the few actors I would like to meet, guy I think is really brilliant. Out of his mind, crazy, does stupid crap, but to me, brilliant. And if you never saw the Ali G show back in the day, you
loved
really
it.
missed out.
Loved it.
You really missed out. The fact that this guy could go into a bar full of rednecks and have them singing Throw the Jew Down the Well, and they don't even realize that the guy on stage that they're singing Throw the Jew Down the Well with is Jewish.
Yeah.
And he's just, it's comedy and it's funny, but it shows you something too. It shows you something. It shows you the ignorance we live around.
Yeah.
When you can go into some country, and not that they'd all do it, but you can go into some country in Western. But there was another one where he was talking to this guy that went out hunting, and he was talking about, what if we could hunt? And I don't remember who he said, but he's like brought up a segregation of America, whether it was black people, white people, brown people. I don't remember what he said. What if we could hunt these people? And the guy's sitting there going, oh yeah, wouldn't that be great? And it's like, good Lord.
Yeah.
And if you're not smart enough to think through what he's doing, you think he's just crazy. But he's pointing things out to you too.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty cool. One of the few people in Hollywood I'd actually enjoy talking to is Sasha Baron Cohen. And he got a letter from the Oscars. I don't know if he got a letter. I don't know how the hell they told him. They told him, you're not here. Can't come to the Oscars. Banned Sasha Baron Cohen from the Oscars. And here's the thing. Apparently, if you want to do some gimmick at the Oscars, because it's very important to these self-important jerks, you've got to, like, write them a letter. So he actually sent in, like, a request to let them know that what he wanted to do was come as the dictator. And if you don't know what I mean by the dictator, there's a new movie coming out where he plays a dictator. And he wanted to come dressed up in the whole thing from head to toe as the dictator. And they basically told him no. The Oscars is too important for gimmicks. It's too, you
That's
can't
ridiculous.
do that.
Ridiculous.
So, to the Oscars, F you guys and everybody who will be there. I'm with Borat.
Yeah, why don't you want to have fun? I mean, it's an award show, a celebration, but everyone just wants to sit here with stern looks on their faces, looking, and like nobody wants to have any fun. And like you said, it's all self-important. Everybody is just, oh, well, like the reason why I mentioned George Clooney is because when he won an Oscar a few years back.
Talking about how important it was?
No, he was talking about how actors were responsible for making the world aware of global warming and starting the green movement.
No, you're
and
not.
All this stuff like that. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? No, you didn't just come up with it. You heard about it from some scientist that knows a million times more than you. And he just used his platform instead of talking about how important those things are. It was how important actors are for making it known that it was important. Like, just absolutely smug to the nth degree.
Hate it.
And this just shows even more of it. No, we're not allowed to have fun at the Oscars. Yeah. Everyone just has to sit there with serious looks on their faces and just be very stern and stoic.
Extremely douchey.
Yes.
All of them. Screw you, Hollywood. That's why we do sports. You know, it's like we said yesterday about politics. That's why we do sports. Because we're not nearly stupid enough to do that other stuff. All right, I also got a few more minutes left. I do want to get into not a big wrestling guy anymore. I don't know that many people. You know, it's crazy because people are.
Yeah.
People are.
I used to be.
John Cena has more Twitter followers than like anyone on the planet. I mean, yeah. I can't remember. I saw a stat the other day of some of the people he had more Twitter followers than, and I'm like, really? I love John Cena. Not that much as a wrestler and his gimmick and you can't see me all, but I've met him and he was a great guy. And he screwed up doing the liner he was doing for me. And I said, oh, can you say this again? He said, my shirt was kind of folded over a little bit and you couldn't see the 1 in 1470. So he said, you're listening to ESPN 470. And I said, oh, can you just say for me ESPN 1470? He didn't have to do the whole thing over again. All I needed was that, and I could edit it together.
Yeah.
Did the whole thing over again like a whole new liner. I have all this great material from John Cena. No, I got you. And he did it again. Just a really nice guy. But he's more Twitter followers than anybody in the freaking world. It's amazing. Yeah. But play the video game a little bit. From time to time, I'll throw it on for like 10 minutes until I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Every now and then, I'll even check out like a pay-per-view. I won't pay for it, but you can steal everything off the internet now.
Yeah.
Not that I do that, but I look through my neighbor's window. He doesn't. But I'll tell you what, I don't know that it'll make me watch more wrestling, but I freaking love this kid CM Punk.
Yeah, I never heard of him until yesterday when you showed me this video.
Just cool. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google the words CM Punk and Chris Brown, and you'll see the kind of little Twitter war that's going on between these two. And basically, I don't know how it started, but CM Punk tweeted something about, I wish, something about basically how Chris Brown's a little bitch because he beat up Rihanna pretty good and put her in the hospital. And then Chris Brown responded basically saying that CM Punk could never be with a woman because steroids have ruined his abilities, if you know what I mean. And it's kind of gone back and forth from that. And if you find the video of CM Punk, because it's not a wrestling gimmick.
No,
I guarantee you it's not a wrestling gimmick. If they wanted Chris Brown on, they wouldn't be talking about how he beat up Rihanna.
Yeah. Because
that's not going to get him on your show. The guy just sits there and says the most amazing things, the kind of things you'd like to say to Chris Brown's face. And the video's great. And he's just like, hey, you know what? Let's get together. Let's get in a ring. Let's put the money towards women's shelters. And I wish I had the exact quote.
I will choke you out.
Yeah, I will choke you out. And I love the way that he said, I will make you feel as scared and cowardice and afraid. And he just, all the things. And he said, I will make you feel every bit as all those things as any woman who's had the unfortunate existence of being around a useless, SOB like yourself. And again, I'm way off on what he actually said, but that was the mention. The message was, hey, you jerk, how about you come fight me because I'm not a chick? I'll beat your ass. We'll put the money towards charity. I just want to say, I will, if you're gonna put this thing together, you gotta pay a play-by-play guy. Nobody's come to do it for free, except this guy. I'll come do it for free. I will come. All right, I will donate whatever my salary for that would be to call CM Punk beating the crap out of Chris Brown because, like CM Punk, I just think if you hit a woman, you're just useless.
Yeah, and he put it perfectly. One of the best lines that stood out for me in that video was that he never fully paid the price for what he did to her. And honestly, somebody like that, he should not still be making money. He should not still be a significant person. He should be sitting in jail somewhere. And that's the thing. He even said, like, yeah, you just picking up trash on a highway for a couple days, you did not learn your lesson. You have not had to, you haven't learned your lesson. You haven't paid the price. And it's good to see somebody say all of the things to that guy, not just about him, but to him. He's hearing these things.
Absolutely.
And it's good to have, it's awesome to see somebody say all the things that everybody wishes they could say to that guy.
Especially when you've got so many apologists.
Yeah.
I looked at both Twitter accounts to see, so I actually followed CM Punk. I'm all on board with the CM Punk thing. I don't have to watch wrestling. I love this guy for standing up and saying the things that most people don't have the huevos to say. I looked at both Twitter accounts, and I go to Chris Brown's, and I see, that jerk Russell Simmons saying, oh, don't worry about what people say about you, buddy. What are you talking about? Why do we have to be apologists for people? I don't understand. I know Russell Simmons has got to be a jerk because, he's talking about how, I can't remember a couple months ago, he was talking about the movement where everybody was hanging out downtown, just not working and sleeping on the road. What was that thing again?
Oh, the
Occupy everywhere.
Yeah.
And he was saying how he supports the Occupy movement, and the Occupy movement was basically saying F you to the banks. But if you watch daytime TV, if you watch Jerry Springer, which, screw you, I'll watch if I'm home. If you watch the Steve Wilkos show, screw you, I'll watch if I'm home. If you watch that stuff, in between you'll see commercials with Russell Simmons pushing his prepaid credit card, which I bet you, while he's worried about the community, while he's worried about the Occupy people, I bet you there's a damn high premium on those credit cards. I bet you it's higher to get the baby fat or whatever the hell it is credit card than any other one, and he's screwing the people he's saying he supports. Screw you, Russell Simmons. Screw you, Chris Brown. Screw the rest of you. We're out of here. It's the end of the show. Until tomorrow, it's the Pat Donovan Show with Chris Kasak. See ya.